I'd like to welcome Chris Freer from England, and Chris has multiple sclerosis. Welcome, Chris.
Good evening.
Could you tell us your story?
Well, yeah, back in 2002, I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis after several years of going to the doctors, and the doctor going, it was stress. Well, I had all these weird and wonderful things happening to me. One of them was I was walking around sort of unbalanced, as if I was like drunk, really.
Yep.
And after being in the licence trade for 25 years, that really wasn't a very good image for me to keep out.
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand what was going on.
Right.
And it wasn't until I moved out of London, funny enough, to Southwood and Ferrers, I actually collapsed and was taken into hospital, and it was then that I got onto the road to actually discover what was the matter with me.
Okay. When you say weird and wonderful things, other than the staggering, what were your symptoms at that time?
Well, my first symptoms that I had was that I had severe tingling in the ends of my fingers. And obviously what I've already said, walking along as if I was drunk, really, sort of like suddenly walking to the side and banging onto the wall. Also, I had problems with my bladder. It was as if 1 minute I didn't want to go to the toilet, and the next minute it was like switching a light on. Like I was absolutely busting to bars.
Yeah.
And it was, and I was thinking to myself, where's the in-between bit? I don't know what's going on here, And that's the first symptoms that I got.
Right. So what happened later on?
Well, I didn't realise this at the time, and it wasn't until later on in my illness that I realised that I was getting, I think they call it cognitive thinking.
Yeah.
I call it foggy thoughts. I was unable to sort of concentrate on things, and being a businessman, it was quite difficult, really, where I couldn't really concentrate on things. And my reasoning sort of went out of the window, really. In fact, I made quite a few bad decisions. In fact, one of the worst decisions I did was that I transferred all my assets over to my then wife's name, bought a house cash in Menorca in her name, and then she decided that she didn't want to be married to someone who was ill anymore, and we got divorced. That was quite a bad decision, but I thought I was making the right decision at the time because I just weren't thinking straight, really. And that's,
how old were you when you were first diagnosed?
Well, yeah, it was back in 2002, so that's, how many years ago is that?
9.
So I was 52 in July, so I was 41.
Right. Still a young man.
Yeah, well, I still feel like I'm a young man.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
I hope so.
You're younger than me, so you must be a young man.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened then?
Well, obviously I was going through, I think what lots of people do when they get an illness like multiple sclerosis, they do all the research on the internet. They see all these weird and wonderful cures. We can cure this and cure that, and just grasping at straws, really. And I sort of got a little bit disillusioned with the NHS, who put me on, I was on steroids, which I really didn't like. No one told me what steroids would do to me, and actually sort of turned me into a bit of a, not a very nice person, really. I sort of turned into someone who was paranoid, I think.
Right.
And I also was on, I think it's Rebif, which is interferon beta 1A.
Yeah.
And I was injecting myself 3 times a week for 3 years, and I kept saying to my consultant, look, don't think this is doing me any good. I feel like I'm getting worse. I feel like I'm getting worse. I mean, I was under a lot of stress as well, I've got to be honest. Mm-hmm. But I sort of found out, I heard about LDN quite a number of years ago, and I sort of read about it, tried to get LDN through my own GP, and she flatly refused to proceed with it in any way, shape or form. Mm-hmm. I then spoke to a private doctor who I cannot remember his name, but I didn't go through with it. I just thought, no, I'm going to stick with what I'm doing, and I didn't go through it. I think I had so much else going on in my life, with the divorce and mm-hmm. the children and such like. I just didn't go through with it. Anyway, I got to a point where I came out of the other side of the divorce. I got to acceptance and stuff, and I then got involved with, I discovered the Multiple Sclerosis Resource Centre in Colchester. Mm-hmm. And their website is fantastic, and the amount of information that they've got on their website is colossal, really. And what I like about them is that they tell you absolutely everything about everything that's on the market, Mm-hmm. But they don't favour anything, and they don't leave anything out. It's to the person's own, it's their own feelings, how they feel about things,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then LDN come back into my head, and I started looking at what they were saying about LDN. I then saw the LDN Research Trust on there. Mm-hmm. I got in touch with you. You gave me information about a doctor that would do it privately, prescription privately. I spoke to that doctor, had my consultation, and I've now been taking LDN for, I do believe it's 233 days today. Because I keep a diary.
Oh, right, okay. So, what have you found LDN has done for you?
Well, it's quite strange, really, because I have to say that all the research that I did about LDN, when I first started taking it, I was looking at it as this wonder drug, yeah, right. And I was hoping it was going to be doing all these wonderful things for me and righting things that were wrong with me. But LDN for me is quite a subtle drug, and one of the first things that I noticed that improved was my eyesight. My eyesight got better. Mm-hmm. And also my cognitive thinking and my concentration values got better. Yeah. My balance hasn't actually improved that much. Mm-hmm. But I have had a situation where we got our wires crossed, and I had a period of time where I didn't take LDN because I didn't get my prescription. Mm-hmm. And I did actually notice how much LDN had done for me, because I sort of noticed things coming back, and my eyesight got worse. And as soon as I went back on the LDN, things started to come right again, Mm-hmm. I mean, LDN is not the only thing that I do in my life to combat MS. I've now got a very positive thinking. I exercise regularly. I do regular stretching, and I also have changed my diet considerably. And I now try and follow the best bet diet. And I think with all these things, I'm sort of winning the battle, if you like, or I'm keeping not the monster in his cage, but I'm keeping things at bay.
Yeah. Did you notice any initial side effects when you started?
No, I didn't. No, none at all. No, I didn't have any side effects. No. Mm-hmm. No.
So will you continue taking LDN?
Absolutely. Without doubt. Absolutely.
And what would you say to other people that were thinking of trying LDN?
Well, I have recommended it to people.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who had fibromyalgia, is it?
Yes.
And I recommended it to them. I don't know whether they have actually taken it on board because there's quite a lot of distance between us. We don't have a lot of contact, but it's definitely, a friend that I know of. It's mainly through the internet, really. And I would recommend it to anybody, and I do. I mean, I've told my doctor about it, who initially said no, I won't have anything to do with it, and she's actually become sort of interested, I think, to see my progress, because and even my neurologist